Hello and welcome to the AVForums podcast for the 3rd of December 2014. Not many left to go this month. And joining me on this edition are Steve Edit.
Start as you mean to go on.
And I haven't even been drinking. Assistant Editor Steve Withers.
Fear is the path to the dark side.
News Editor Mark Hodgkinson. No, he's not here.
He's quoting the audience reaction to the film.
Sorry, some idiot sent me...
Well, no, when I sent that to you, Mark was on the podcast.
News Editor Mark Botwright.
Games editor Mark Botwright.
Oh, sorry.
We're really on rocking and rolling tonight, aren't you, Phil?
On it this evening.
Hey, I just read the shit that's in front of me and...
Are you having a Ron Burgundy one?
Yeah.
I'm Phil Hinton.
Games Editor Mark Botwright.
Will you defer your motion to allow a commission to explore the validity of your accusations?
And audio reviewer Ed Selly.
I don't care what universe you're from, that's gotta hurt.
What terrible dialogue. Jesus. It's all coming flooding back. 99. What a terrible year. Got myself so excited as well, and it was just it was just heartbreaking, wasn't it? So the new trailer was out last week, The Force Awakens, Star Wars. There was one where Yoda wakes up with the sound of the alarm clock, which I thought was hilarious. But the real trailer was out. So what did we think? And I'm going to go to Mr. Botwright first.
I didn't want to get drawn in.
Sorry, who are you? You don't sound anything like you normally sound, Mark.
I have a little bit of a cold. I'll apologise.
You haven't just got someone else to cover for you if you pretend to be.
With the real Mark Botwright, please stand up.
If only I'd discovered that ploy earlier. I honestly didn't want to get sucked in by it. I didn't want to kind of let the hype roll over me, but it kind of has. As far as trailers go, it kind of ticked all the right boxes. I did think that the starting voiceover was sounded a bit like a kind of skit on Star Wars. And the stormtrooper kind of popping up did seem almost slightly comedic. But beyond that, just it was a series that kind of based around, all the good points were based around imagery, and it kind of ticked all the right boxes for me. There were kind of some shots where they just seemed to kind of evoke different films, like the stormtroopers clearly in some kind of like drop ship, and then the guns are being checked, and then the kind of, the landing door opens, and it almost could have been like a kind of Star Wars versus Aliens moment.
Starship Troopers, it kind of really made me think of.
Yeah, it just, the little kind of puff of smoke and everything.
My God, can you imagine a group of stormtroopers with their legendary accuracy going up against Alien? I mean, that would be the shortest film ever made, really, wouldn't it?
But yeah, everything just seemed to be there. I'm not fully sold on the kind of new lightsaber design, I'll be honest. But kind of a Sith Lord in the snow, looked very dark, looked a little bit kind of Game of Thrones style. Beyond that, I think the moment when everyone really kind of got sucked into it was when you see the X-Wing over the water. That's the kind of moment when all kind of cynicism slowly kind of erodes away and you become 12 years old again.
Actually, I phoned Steve on Skype and he said, "Have you seen it yet?" And no, I'll watch it now. And Steve said to me, "Yeah, it's not very good. It's not that great." And then the Millennium Falcon came on, and I went, "Fucking yes, get in." That was the shot that sold it for me. Sold. I'll go and see it. I'm excited.
Yeah, but you were going to see it anyway.
Yeah.
The other thing is, and I was thinking about this especially when Withers made his quote from The Phantom Menace, therefore making me revisit it. I suspect that if you were really, really, really careful, you could have created a trailer that long for The Phantom Menace that would have got us excited as well.
I was excited with the
Phantom Menace trailer was amazing.
Absolutely amazing. It was amazing. It was my best mate was a general manager at Warner Village Manors in Newcastle. It no longer exists. It was knocked down. It's now some part in Northumbria University. But he was a manager back in '99. I finished a back shift. He says, "The trailer's in. Do you want to come and see it?" And we sat there for 3 hours. We turned it up, biggest screen, and just ran it through the projector on loop. And we must have watched that about 40 times. It was astoundingly good, especially when the doors opened and then the double lightsaber. Oh, it's just... Yeah.
So yeah, okay.
Fantastic.
So not only there is precedent that it's still perfectly possible to create an absolute Cleveland steamer of a film.
Yep.
With an amazing trailer. So thus far we haven't proved anything. Tragically.
No, we haven't proved anything. And the Phantom Menace trailer was absolutely. Go and watch it.
Yeah,
it was
YouTube.
absolutely superb.
If you watch that trailer, Ed, what you'll notice is that in the trailer, Jar Jar Binks and the kid are significantly missing. They almost hardly appear in it at all. I think Jar Jar Binks we see him in one scene with one line and a kid running in a field, and that's it. It's all cool stuff with Darth Maul and spaceships and that sort of stuff. It's a brilliant piece of marketing, which completely it was a massive bait and switch there, because obviously when you saw the film, it was nothing like that.
No. So this one could tragically achieve the same thing. Don't get me wrong, I have more faith in J.J. Abrams to deliver the goods, but I don't know. I've got to be honest.
Hang on. J.J. Jar Jar.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, that was what I hope the trailer was going to be. You'd see the Disney thing and then Lucasfilm, and then you see Jar Jar Binks going, "Me's are back." That would have been brilliant.
That would have been cruel. You'd have had people slitting their wrists the world over.
I was more excited by the Fury Road trailer.
The only thing that's worrying about this trailer is that robot that runs on
no,
football.
don't worry about that. I don't think that's actually in the film. I think that's a nod to the Bad Robot logo that his production company uses. You ever seen at the end Bad Robot when it runs backwards and forwards in the field? Mm-hmm. I think that's just a joke. That's just a nod to their company.
I hope so, because
we shall see.
I hope so, because he came
and a bit of
across
a
as
mistake of Lucas, I think, because the whole thing felt like it was a kind of a two fingers to Lucas again, because you showed a real person in a stormtrooper outfit instead of a bunch of CG stormtroopers, which I never quite understood in the prequels.
Wasn't that the bloke from Attack the Block as well?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought it was. It must be said that Reddit has already kind of seized on that. There's one where it just cuts that opening desert scene, and then the stormtrooper pops up. It's got the head of Patrick Star from SpongeBob SquarePants. It's magnificent, perfectly done. And obviously that lightsaber with 87 appendages, that's been pissed about with. Obviously, as you say, in the George Lucas Special Edition, there's like 87 extra bits come out of it. Yeah. There's another one where he turns it on, and it's a Swiss Army knife, and just a big corkscrew comes out.
Yeah, but I think that kind of points to where we are as well as film fans and the internet age. It's so far removed from '99, where the Phantom Menace. It took a while for.
Well, that was the beginning, wasn't it? Because I remember downloading that trailer. It took me 8 hours to download it over a telephone line.
And now, thanks to the wonders of modern technology, in 2014, Steve would only take an hour and a half to do the same thing.
If I pedalled fast. I remember I downloaded it. It took 8 hours all night, and the next morning I watched it, and it was like Phil said, it was one of the most memorable experiences of my life. I was so excited for about 3 months, and then I saw this one.
Yeah. It's just that massive disappointment, and I've said this since we've been doing these weekly podcasts. I don't want to get excited. I don't want to let myself get emotionally attached to this in any way. I'm sorry, I'm suckered. I am.
What did surprise me though was we didn't see any shots of Han or Leia or Luke,
which is worrying.
I told you they're going to be in their old people's home. And it's going to be like a moment of Bubba Hotep.
We didn't even see R2 or C-3PO. It was none, or Chewbacca. None of the original trilogy cast.
Do you not think that's smart?
Yeah.
Yes,
because it does feel like that Phantom Menace trailer. If I look back, what suckered me in, it was kind of the reveal of Darth Maul. It was that kind of the idea that it was all going to build up to that fight sequence, which was frankly terrible in the final film, and it feels like if he would have gone down that route, if he would have shown some kind of anything more immediately identifiable in terms of characters, that would have been met with even more cynicism. I think people would say it's just an easy kind of card to pull. Yeah,
but so is a trailer just full of effect shots, which is basically what it is.
I don't know. I think they've done a reasonable job. They've certainly got people's interest up. Let's face it, Twitter. Twitter exploded. It managed to displace.
Broke the internet.
It didn't do that. But I don't know. It's all quite positive. As I say, I'm more personally for me. I had more of a nerdgasm over the Mad Max trailer, same period. But it looks quite passable, and I hope that it's good. I do genuinely hope it's good.
I think the most ironic thing on the internet last week wasn't the Star Wars trailer and everything that followed after it. It was the Jurassic Park trailer, or Jurassic World trailer, and people got pissed off because it's a genetically modified dinosaur.
So missing the point of the original film, aren't they, really?
There's whole comment sections about it, and you're thinking, I'm sorry, you've missed the plot here completely, utterly. Not sure about that trailer.
We're going to come back to genetically modified dinosaurs quite soon. By the way,
I'll have to get more beer before that, I think.
Yeah, just a bit. But yeah, that trailer. I'm not sure. I want to see it, but
look, can we just be clear that Phil? Can we stop the pretend prevarication? You will see it within 12 hours of it opening, for better or worse.
What are we talking about here? Star Wars or Jurassic World?
Star Wars.
I'm not talking about that now. We've moved on.
Okay, Jurassic World. No, that
yeah,
can
keep
go
up.
south. Yeah,
We've moved on.
Sorry.
So that trailer, it was all right until that shark that looked completely fake was hung over the pool with that.
It wasn't a Sharknado, was it?
yeah, but then again, those effects might not be completely finished. You never know.
Yeah. Yeah, but
'Cause that would be a
there
perfect thing to
was
put in the
some
trailer.
part of it. I think there was some part of it where you thought, yeah, okay, old school Jurassic Park, this might be quite good fun, and we don't know what the genetically modified thing is. It looks like it might be able to fly. It might be some snake in there as well. I mean, it could be anything. So
Oh, I'm kind of looking for. It's piqued my. I mean, I knew nothing about Jurassic World really. I'd read. I knew they were making it, but I didn't know much about plot details. It could pique my interest.
Yeah.
And I showed Laura both trailers, and she said she wanted to see Jurassic World. So
There's something about Star Wars that generally just repels women really effectively.
no, she's a massive Star Wars fan. She loves the original trilogy, but she's like, nah.
No. I think that's self-preservation. I think it's like.
Also, she used to work for Disney, and she really, really hates them. So that's another reason why she might not be so keen.
So Jurassic World. Anybody else see the trailer? I'm assuming that you haven't, Ed. Mark,
No,
did you
I
see
haven't.
it?
No, unfortunately not.
There's
It's
too
not
much
like
snot
it's
on his. There's too much snot on his monitor.
Hang on a minute. We've got 30 seconds. Go and watch it.
Could someone send me a link, please?
Go to YouTube and type in Jurassic World trailer. Christ, I thought you were meant to be tech savvy.
I know.
World trailer,
It's just
here we
that I'm using a mini keyboard here.
It isn't you, is it? It's not Mark. It's just some imposter. Who the hell are we talking to?
Do I really sound that
Yeah,
different?
you
He
sound
sounds
really
like a
different. Yeah.
completely different
Yeah.
person.
That kid needs a haircut. He's not wearing good headphones. Oh, okay. No, well, hang on a second. The one I found is 2 minutes 40 long. So, but the thing that, just to be clear on this, the thing that jumped out the swimming pool and at the shark, that's not a genetically modified one. That's a real dinosaur.
Yes
that
or no?
existed.
Yeah, you don't see the genetically modified one.
Oh, okay, fine. Right, well, it looks jolly smart, and it looks like they've recycled all the buildings from the Hunger Games, which is prudent, you know.
Meh. You know, looked all right. Yeah, as Ed said, kid needs a haircut. Beyond that, the giant alligator thing, not sure. You know, I mean, I'm not sure they can really have trailers where they should put in, you know, still work in progress at the end of it. No, I can't imagine it'll look that impressive on the big screen if that's the kind of level of effects.
I think next summer will be fine. It's got Avengers: Age of Ultron coming out. So
Yay.
That's nothing for me. Can't be doing with superhero films. I'll tell you what. I finally caught
although
up.
you enjoyed Guardians of the Galaxy,
I did, yeah. Gardens of the Galaxy, as I call it. Yeah, really good. And if Star Wars is half the film that is in terms of fun and comedy, then bring it on. I thought it was very, very well done, very well put together. Where that differs and why it works is characters. They're actual characters in there that you like, and that played off each other to really effective comic value, I thought.
yeah, which is what was missing from things like the prequels. You didn't care about any of the characters, and
Yeah, well, here's the thing:
Funny or entertaining.
who was the hero
Mm.
in the the prequels? Who was it we're supposed to be rooting for?
I don't root for any of them.
What, Gardens of the Galaxy or Star Wars?
Star Wars. Gardens of the Galaxy, I thought it was thoroughly pleasant. Thoroughly enjoyed that.
Also caught up with Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. What a fantastic performance again from Andy Serkis. That's just... And the way the effects was done, after about 2 minutes, you forget that you're watching computer-generated monkeys, basically. Fantastic.
Not monkeys, apes.
Yes, I said monkey. I said monkeys for comic effect, Steve.
Well, I don't know. That's the sort of thing that gets you, torn apart on the internet, Phil.
Yes, well, where I was born, I would be called a monkey hanger. So there you go.
You were born in Hartlepool?
Yes, I was.
Why? What's the monkey hand?
Well, now back during the Napoleonic conflict, after a particularly violent storm, a ship sank off the coast, and the only survivor was a monkey, which the residents of Hartlepool took to be a French person. So they tried and hanged it.
Well, they'd never seen a Frenchman before, so they just thought that was a Frenchman.
Was it not also due to propaganda? Comics
or just
depicting them as
never
kind of
been
apes?
completely proven either way. But yeah, possibly.
Right, I think we're so far off topic, we better get back on topic. Black Friday was Friday past. Another American import into this country, which just hasn't done any favours for the PR companies, for the likes of Tesco and the other big supermarkets. Though all that footage that we saw over the weekend with people fighting over Polaroid TVs and Blancpain TVs, and basically shit TVs, a PR dream, but it doesn't really give a good impression, and it doesn't really work in this country, I don't think.
I don't know. I think for starters, it was. I mean, obviously, the news agencies got what they wanted out of it, which was, idiots attacking each other over substandard products. So in that regard, yeah. I have to admit, I didn't realise the sheer scope of Black Friday as it exists in the US. In so much as completely at random, I was looking for a piece of information for a piece I've just written for the website. So I was on an American website that makes tone arms for record players, and I need to stress they do not make cheap tone arms record players. Their two products will set you back a minimum of $5,000, and the other one's more expensive than that. But both of them had Black Friday discounts, and then, having remarked on this to a friend of mine, he pointed out that he had been he used to work with me at Cambridge Audio. He now works for a company that makes and builds chainsaws. And yes, I don't necessarily think of chainsaws as being on your immediate Christmas buy list either, but they, in the US, their website, having a significant Black Friday promotion. So in the US, it's a much more all-encompassing thing where, yes, you've got people fighting over cheap televisions, but then there are just completely random companies that you'd never expect to be doing a discount were doing a discount. So if that made its way to the UK, I'd be all for that. Sod all this talk of cultural imperialism.
Yeah, I just think we're British. We just kind of do that kind of thing. Yeah, it's not in our makeup.
Well, I've got to be honest and say my high horse is a bit shabby here because there's a very high chance I'll be taking advantage of a Cyber Monday deal. I've got my promotional code here. I'm just weighing up whether I want to go for it. So whatever moral high ground I want to take, I have to take it in light of the fact that I've probably going to take advantage of one of these American import sales.
I have no doubt that we're going to get a hell of a rant from Steve, so on you go, Steve.
Well, no, I'm not going to rant. Like Ed said, we've only seen the highlights that the news media picked up on because obviously it makes for entertaining television to watch a bunch of poor people beating each other up in a Tesco's over a crap telly.
When is that not entertaining? Can we be clear on this?
Always going
not
entertaining.
Yes, but it's also still criminal assault.
Yeah, I saw.
Yeah, but if you said it to music, it would be funny.
The Benny Hill music.
Yeah, there's something about it's a knockout about that whole thing.
I think it's just, unfortunately, whereas in America it's about providing genuine value, as Ed's just pointed out, I think over here it's about sort of, laughing at the peasants and people fighting over crap deals. That was it, really. I avoided any large congregation of people on Friday. Didn't go anywhere, any stores. Certainly didn't go to the centre of Bath.
I'd forgotten about it. So, and then realised I needed to go to the supermarket, didn't I? And I was like, can't go.
I think if you would have gone to the supermarket, you would have seen it was exactly the same as normal. I popped into a town on the day, and I found there were no greater number of people. No one was kind of rampaging or anything.
Is it you that lives in Norfolk?
No. I popped into Salisbury, and no, there wasn't any great rampage there. I think it's largely kind of a media event at the moment. Kind of people are trying to build it up to be something that it's not. I saw the same kind of 30-second clip of people tearing apart the packaging around some giant stack of TVs.
That was all put on. That just smell of get some TV. Why was the TV's cameras in there? And there was some mobile phone footage. But if you looked to the sides of the image, and by the way, if you're going to film stuff on a mobile phone, correct aspect ratio, landscape, please. But if you look to the sides, there wasn't anybody else in the store apart from this rugby scrum that was going on in front of the cameras. So it was put on, absolutely put on.
Well, I noticed the photographs in the Saturday Guardian and the Sunday Telegraph are basically exactly the same. So yeah, I think it was all just one place with one bunch of photographers.
Yeah.
They're probably actors. They're probably from RADA or something. Weren't even actually the unwashed. They're just wearing shell suits and pretending to be peasants, fighting over a Polaroid telly. Didn't even know Polaroid still existed, actually.
Well, there's Blunkput as well.
They made car stereos.
I haven't seen them since the car stereo days, yeah.
Yeah, and I was sitting there thinking, I wonder how terrible the out-of-the-box setting will be on that TV.
If it worked. There was a funny thing on Facebook, I don't know if you saw it, it was basically a Tesco thing going around saying, thank you very much for buying these shit TVs off us.
Well, we have got kind of history for picking up crap things. Like during the riots, like the guy pictured, what was it, the giant bag of rice? and was it when the ship washed up in Devon? All the kind of goods and the like. People were, one bloke walked away with a motorbike, but other people were kind of walking away with like cat food or something.
Yeah. So
Grey Thursday, Black Friday, Cyber Monday.
Yeah, so another American import. It's just not as good as the American side of things, and I think that's the point you were trying to make, Ed, was that leave it to the Americans. They can do it properly.
Oh, just going back to what Botwright was saying. You went to Salisbury, Mark. Let's be clear about this. I can think of no place on earth, including Amish County, less likely to have a Black Friday riot. I mean, that Waitrose. I mean, literally, it's pretty much the living definition of British civilization, that giant Waitrose.
I don't know. The second story in the antiques market was, fairly crowded. There were about 3 of us at one point.
Could it have all kicked off horribly?
It could have.
If the right Clarice Cliff tea set had gone up on a Black Friday discount. Yeah, I know.
Talking about deals, there is a cracker of a deal out there. The review went up last week, end of last week, before the weekend. The EC930 from LG, the OLED TV, Steve, under £2,000. I got asked, is it the best TV out there? And the only thing I could reply with was, well, he wouldn't have found me buying an LCD TV. So,
yeah, I mean, look, it's not the best TV ever made. I mean, I think people need to get a couple of things, have a little reality check here. First of all, I'm just staggered at all that you can buy an OLED television for £1,999. I think people should be rejoicing that fact, because it means that OLED's on its way towards becoming a mass market product, and it far faster than I thought was ever conceivable. Now, I don't know if this is because LG are shipping out a load of old panels, or whether they're taking a massive cut in terms of their margin, but that's a really good price. You'd pay that for a flagship 55-inch LCD television. Is it the best TV made? Of course not. No, and I'm not saying that, and I never did say that in the review. I just said it was a best buy because, you're getting an OLED for less than $2,000. I agree with you, Phil, that given what's currently available, i.e. there's no plasma, so you've only got choice between an LCD television with an LED backlight or an OLED TV, I would personally go for the OLED TV because obviously the blacks are superior. They'd be superior to plasma as well. The motion handling is identical between the two technologies, and since it's not using a backlight, you don't have any of the problems that come with a backlight, like bright corners or clouding. So my personal preference would be to go for an OLED. Having said that, there are some excellent LCD televisions out there, of course, and obviously this is not a 4K TV, so if 4K is something you're interested in, then that's a different question entirely. Or your alternative is obviously to wait and see if LG do actually release the 4K OLED television in this country. It's looking like it won't be this year.
It's definitely not going to be this year on the information that I've seen. So that's going to be in the new year. But interestingly, CES, our first meeting of CES on press day is with LG on their stand with a new tech. So AVForums readers, listeners and viewers will be the first to know what's coming from LG in the new year as far as OLED and other technology is concerned. So
I'm going to stick my neck out and say it's going to be televisions.
You may be.
It might involve OLED.
You reckon? I don't know. I wasn't going to go that far. I just think televisions will be involved.
So anyway, wrapping up on this, Steve, it's really been encouraging, the feedback that we've had. Obviously, OLED has a lot of life in it, a lot of popularity on the forums. People want to know about the technology. I think that reviews had over 200 comments.
Yeah, it's had plenty of comments. A lot of those comments were people talking about best deals on Friday, funnily enough, when there were some really, really impressive deals going around. I've got to say, not just for OLED, for all the TVs. I mean, not Polaroid and Blaupunkt, but like really serious, like Samsung 4K TVs with the UHD drive, included, and this sort of thing for a really great deal. So, if you were shopping for a quality television on Friday, you could get some pretty impressive deals, I've got to say.
But it's a bit late now.
Yeah, no, forget it. Well, maybe no, Cyber Monday. Still got
no Cyber Monday. I have to say, there's been some good stuff.
Hang on. This is going out on Wednesday.
Yeah, I know, it's too late.
Well,
on Wednesday.
okay, look, you'll need to travel back in time using the DeLorean from the last podcast to do any of these things. But that's by the by.
Right, let's move on. Games news, Mark, and some big news coming out of Japan, allegedly. Their Xbox boss has resigned.
Well, not really that big. He's still with Microsoft. Takashi Sensui has resigned supposedly from his kind of head of Xbox Japan post. Basically, as most people kind of assumed, the Xbox One isn't really selling that well. 776 sold last week. If you're counting them in those kind of numbers, PS4 sold 12,000. It's not great. Most people expected as such. They were launching considerable time later than their main opponents, a Japanese competitor. Perhaps some people have said the fact that it's this kind of huge box with a massive power supply seen as less powerful. There was no major saving there. They've already got a kind of not a great image over there, so it was hard to see where the sales were going to come from and how they were going to turn things around. But they had to kind of at least make a show of it, so to speak. It's kind of perhaps they needed some kind of radical rebranding, but it would have taken a serious amount of time and money to get things back on track. And it's also the fact that the console sector's dwindling in Japan as well. So mobile gaming's taking over. It just kind of, just quite a hard sell.
Is there anti-US feeling as well? Or is that just a press angle that gets used?
I think that's more of a press angle that gets used. I think it's quite a kind of complex set of reasons why some kind of Western businesses don't do as well. There's kind of long been accusations that the kind of corporate culture is completely different. So the way in which deals are done just it doesn't really translate as well. And so yes, there's also the fact that Japan, sometimes they certain consoles they love, certain consoles they don't. Certain consoles do well in the West that don't do well as well in Japan, and Europe is also its own kind of entity. So it's almost impossible to conquer, all three continents at the same time.
Well, it's exactly right about what you say about the crossover between companies that are tremendously successful in various corners of the world and then just trying to... If you take exactly the same business model to Japan, it more often than not just seems to fall on its arse and die. You need to have a very specific approach, and I think part of the problem is that it's wrong to stereotype it in quite this way, but Western brands that do well in Japan are ones that are offering a premium perception. Mercedes does extremely well. Obviously, Japanese are a huge consumer of high-end whiskies and other.
I was just going to say. A lot of the Scottish exports are Japanese.
Indeed.
Japan,
but they're items where there's no direct. In the case of spirits, especially, if you remove, there are very specific Japanese sort of efforts in this area, but if you have areas where lower competition and then, as I say, a premium brand identity, then you can often do quite well. But the words Microsoft and premium brand identity are divergent at best, in my opinion. But I don't think it's particularly contentious or litigious to say that I don't believe that Microsoft has ever sought in any other market to present itself as a premium brand offering, which means that they're going to be on a hiding to nothing if they were suddenly to try and do so in one market. You know, when was the last time you saw a Windows advert? Windows, it's really posh. Other than the one where the bloke was using the incognito mode or whatever you call it, the thing clearly for porn, apparently for buying posh gifts for his wife. It's like, yeah, right. Who's fooling who?
But in better news for Microsoft, Mark, they're doing well in the US on the back of Black Friday.
Yes. This was according to InfoScout. 53% of consoles sold were Xbox Ones over that period. Again, not doing as well in Japan, obviously, but it was a box kind of very much that people saw as US centric, and certainly with regards anything around the time period of Black Friday, people, it seemed, would tend to put off, certainly in the States, buying some kind of hardware. They would wait for that time to see what kind of offers were around, and with the Xbox One having probably the best exclusives of the two new gen supposedly called consoles at the moment. It was a good time for them. You're going into the holiday period, and it's the kind of it's the time to upgrade, because the tail end of the last generation, there aren't as many games being released, and with the offers about, just seemed to be a perfect time for Microsoft to kind of capitalize on that.
Seems legit. Is that because Microsoft are offering bigger discounts over that period, or rather than people just selecting the Xbox One over PS4? Because obviously PS4's done far better in sales to date, I think, in the States or anywhere for that matter.
Yeah, well, I mean, sales kind of thus far, I think, obviously the momentum was with the PS4 simply because it had the price advantage and it was obviously, known to be more powerful. But it does seem as though Microsoft have been particularly aggressive with things like bundles. I mean, over 90% of those consoles sold throughout the period were bundle deals, and Microsoft has been pushing that very, very hard. I mean, it would have been tough if you were looking around for decent deals in the UK or the US to kind of look at what was on offer on the PS4 for any kind of significant period of time in comparison to what was on offer on the Xbox One. I mean, some of the deals with the Xbox One were bringing the kind of cost of the console down to, kind of the $250 range. There were deals with 2, 3, 4 games, which were absolutely fantastic. Whereas not necessarily really something that Sony had to do. So, they've kind of just, I don't know, let the sales continue. But yeah, Microsoft seems to be pretty aggressive with that at the moment, and it's paying off.
Good for them.
If I hadn't bought one at launch, I would have bought one now.
You must be kicking yourself now.
I am.
Said you were going to do it at the time and not buy.
Absolutely kicking myself. I said I wasn't going to, and once again, I was too susceptible to the hype. But at least I've got the Kinect, and I can talk to the console.
You must be delighted.
Yes, I am.
Can it still understand you with this cold?
Who are you?
Well, occasionally it is funny, but I do feel it's something of an affront when it doesn't actually recognise me. When you sit down in front of the console and it signs you in as anonymous.
I just love it when my son activates Siri on one of the iPads and then just goes, "Rawr," and he goes, "I'm sorry, I didn't catch that." I find that inordinately entertaining most of the time.
And is that the games news?
I think that is games news before my voice goes.
Oh.
So we move into the final section of this week's podcast, and what's at the cinema, Steve?
I saw The Imitation Game, Phil, which is the story basically of Alan Turing, not just his work at Bletchley Park in World War II, helping to crack the Enigma code, but it actually covers quite a lot of his life. So it includes moments from his childhood at school, right through to his later years after the war, when he was convicted of homosexuality and chemically castrated and eventually committed suicide. So what a lovely way to treat one of our great heroes. I found the film to be really heartbreakingly moving at times, particularly towards the end. Yeah, it's. I think it was a fantastic film. I thought the Cumberbatch was superb. I thought the story was fascinating. I appreciate that they've obviously changed details here and there for narrative drive. I mean, it's a film; it's not a documentary. But on the whole, it concentrates predominantly on what he was responsible for, which was developing a machine in order to speed up the process of trying to break the code, because there were 156 million different combinations. So. In effect, not only helping to shorten and win the war, but also helping to develop what we now call computers. So it just juxtaposes, his upbringing, his experiences at school, being incredibly intelligent, but also obviously a homosexual in a time when it was not technically, when it was actually illegal, and dealing with that, but also dealing with loss and grief, and I guess he either suffered from autism or Asperger's syndrome, at least the way he's played by Cumberbatch in the film, you'd infer that, because he certainly has very poor social skills and doesn't deal with people very well. But the relationship between him and his co-worker, played by Keira Knightley, is also very well handled. He did actually get engaged to her at one point, then obviously broke it off when he came clean and said that he was actually gay. But what it does is, it really nails the breaking of the code at the time and what happened, his contribution to it specifically, because it's really about him rather than just breaking the Enigma code, and then also what happened to him after the war. I thought it was a fascinating and deeply moving film that I really, really enjoyed.
Is it Saturday night in entertainment, Steve, or is it a disc?
No, there's not. I'm not going to call it a rollicking Saturday night laugh at the cinema. I mean, I was in tears at the end of it.
Yeah, but you're in tears at the end of most stuff.
Yeah. well, I was in tears this afternoon, but we'll talk about that later as well. I thought it was, I thought it was. It's nice to go and see an intelligent, well-made adult movie made, about a serious subject and in a real person, and made in a sensitive and moving way. I'm getting a bit sick of the kind of rubbish that pollutes. So I saw the trailer before it for Paddington. And actually, I'm amazed because apparently it's been getting quite good reviews, but it looked absolutely dreadful in the trailer. In fact, every single one of the trailers for the films before all looked utterly appalling, and I just thought, God. But I'm glad I saw it. I mean, it's a script ratio movie. It's got some quite big scenes, when they're sort of dealing with what's happening on, say, the convoys, Atlantic convoys, while they're trying to break the code and that kind of stuff. And it's got a great cast. So Mark Strong's in it, and he's very good as an MI6 agent, basically.
Mark Strong is one of the most underrated actors out there. Don't get me wrong, he does occasionally choose stuff where you think, not quite sure about that. But he does, whatever he chooses, all power to him. He normally puts everything into it. He really does.
Yeah, he's very good in it. It says at the end of the film, and Ed, I don't know if you can clarify this, but they said there's an estimate by historians, I suppose, that the work at Bletchley Park and Turing's contribution specifically helped shorten the war by up to 2 years and saved over 14 million lives. So, I mean, you've got to, and Churchill, I know, certainly was on record as saying that we might not have won the war without Turing. So it's interesting that, someone makes that kind of contribution to the war effort and then is so appallingly treated after. And giving him a pardon, after his death is pointless. It's too late now. I found it to be. I knew the story anyway, but hopefully through this film, more people will know the story and the injustice that was done.
It as I understand it, my brother-in-law went to see it, and I regard him as a pretty good barometer for films. He's far more of a cinephile than I am, as in the actual business of going to the cinema. I mean, as you know, I loathe that, so I'm off to a bad start. But no, he was a big fan, and yeah, I mean, the only thing that seems to be a bit of an anomaly, and I think it's a wasted opportunity because it would have been a perfect opportunity to wheel out another British character actor, is it? As I understand it, Steve, and I know we're sort of handling spoilers awkwardly here, but in reality, the computer, call it what you will, was actually assembled by a bloke who normally worked for the post office. And it's quite, and that in itself is quite an extraordinary. I mean, how on earth? Essentially, it's a case of building something that had never been built before, and it's quite an extraordinary story in itself. And it appears that this poor sod doesn't even get a look in. Which I
there are people. I mean, Turing didn't build that machine on his own. I mean, or develop it even. A lot of the work was done previously, and they do briefly mention it in the film, but they don't give enough credit, I think, to the Polish bureau that actually stole Enigma in the first place, an Enigma machine, and secondly, did a lot of work in terms of developing a machine to help crack it. And there were other guys that were instrumental in its development that aren't mentioned at all. So, but then again, the focus of the film is very much on Turing himself, and not just his contribution to the war, and not just about breaking enigmas. I say it's not really about that so much. I mean, although that is a big part of the film, it's more about his contribution and his personal life and the struggles he went through, and what happened to him ultimately at the end. So that's fine, and I appreciate that. Certain characters, so for example, Charles Dance's character, who is basically the naval head of Bletchley Park, is portrayed, I think, in a very sympathetic and not necessarily realistic way. But they need to give some sort of dramatic drive to the film. Also, I think the timelines are a little bit out at times, and I think a lot of work was done long before it. By 1940, they were quite well ahead of developing some of this stuff, and it seemed to take a lot longer in the film. And obviously, later on, they have one machine in the film, but there were hundreds of the machines that have actually built, and then they built them in the States as well. So they were cracking all these codes, and they have a bit where they're cracking codes, and then working out they're going to attack a specific convoy, and then one of the guys who's working on it's brothers on that convoy. Again, purely a narrative device to add extra tension and to make it clear that they're making decisions on people's lives and deaths. Because the thing they couldn't do is start acting on the information, because if they did that, the Germans knew they'd broken the code and then they'd change it.
They could only
had to actually decide.
Well, they could act indirectly on stuff.
They could only act. Well, Turing developed a formula to work out how much information they could act on without it actually tipping off the Germans that we'd broken the code in the first place. So what they had to do was decide who lived and who died every day, which again is a terrible thing to have to deal with. So I thought it was a superb film. I thought 9 out of 10 from me, absolutely fantastic. Please go and see it. Please, support decent, good films and stop buying shit. That's all I can say. I'm sick of rubbish films, and I wish more people would go and support this stuff. And I think Benedict Cumberbatch will probably get an Oscar nomination for his performance.
And talking of shit,
I was going to say the segue's there.
well, the segue was there for the next two bits.
Now, listeners, that's me showing my roots, isn't it? Is this the case? This getting 9 out of 10, is this perhaps coloured by recent experiences?
No, because I saw Imitation Game before my recent experiences, so it's not some sort of backlash reaction.
Blu-ray's released next week, Steve.
Yeah, it's a quiet week. Only one major release, which is Expendables 3. I do have the film. I haven't watched it all yet. I can't really comment on the quality of Expendables 3 because I haven't actually watched the film properly. I've only watched bits of it because it does have an Atmos soundtrack. Or at least the US disc does. I think the UK disc does as well.
Fed up of watching Transformers.
Exactly, yeah. And compared to Transformers, it's a masterpiece. So I haven't actually seen the whole film, so I can't really comment on the quality of it. Obviously, anyone who's read Cass's review or heard about it knows that it's got just about every action star that's ever breathed and is still alive in it, or hasn't been in the previous 2 Expendables films. And if that's your cup of tea, fantastic. I think you'll probably enjoy it. Certainly, the soundtrack's great. I can say that much.
Is The Rock in it?
No, he's not. No, The Rock's too good for that. I mean, it's has-beens and washed up action stars, not ones that are at the very top of their game right now.
I need a T-shirt.
But it is out next week, if that's your cup of tea.
Right, Steve, we first talked about this on the 21st of August 2013, over a year ago.
Yeah,
you finally...
we have to wait less time for Star Wars.
We were talking about, was it unlikely buddy cop movies and unlikely pairings?
Yeah.
And
suffered the greatest sidetrack in history.
The most unlikely pairing of all time would be Whoopi Goldberg and a T-Rex. And I think you didn't believe me initially, but there is really a film where she's teamed up with a T-Rex, and it's called Theodore Rex. Not, as Ed pointed out, anything to do with the American president Teddy Roosevelt, whose biography has the same name. I actually did order it finally, the US DVD, which I was pleased to see, briefly pleased to see, was actually in widescreen and anamorphically enhanced with a Dolby Digital 5.1 soundtrack. And on the edge of the box, it has comedy written on the side of it, which I think should be sued. New Line Cinema should be Warner Brothers. I think.
Like someone takes it back thinking it's a documentary.
Well, no, I think comedy suggests there's going to be some laughs in it, but that would be misleading, I feel. So yeah, I watched it, and when a film has to have an opening crawl, title crawl with a voiceover as well, because people can't read, which I'm sure most people watching it, to explain what the is going on, you realise that's not a great start. in the future, most animals are extinct, so they've been genetically cloning animals to bring them back. This billionaire has been doing it, and he has a plan to wipe out all life on Earth and just use his ark of cloned animals and perfect animals in order to repopulate the planet. That's the premise. Quite why they've cloned dinosaurs, I don't know. And why they talk and walk, I know even less. That's never explained at all in the film. But Whoopi Goldberg is a police officer who's been cybernetically enhanced. And she gets paired up with a T-Rex, a walking, talking T-Rex called Teddy, to investigate the dino side of another dinosaur who found out about this guy's plot and tried to warn everybody and got killed. It's worse than it sounds. Now, famously, Whoopi Goldberg made a verbal agreement to appear in this film, and obviously saw the script and said "f***ing way," and they sued over 20 million. So, in out-of-court settlement, she agreed to do the film for a 7 million fee, which is 5 million, 2 million more than they originally offered to pay her. It was 7 million. She really earned it on this one, I think, because they obviously decided to humiliate her for the entire shooting period. They put her in an outfit that I can only describe as uncomfortable, to say the least. She can barely move in it. And it's skin tight, and no one wants to see Whoopi Goldberg in a skin tight outfit at the best of times. So she takes out a gun and does policey things. She looks like a 5-year-old playing at cops and robbers who's absolutely no idea what they're doing. She clearly has no interest in being in there whatsoever. She doesn't even phone this one in. She just sends a carrier pigeon with her performance attached to its leg. It's unbelievably bad. And in every scene, and the only fun I had was watching the pain she was going through in every scene she's forced to be in. The dialogue is terrible. The comedy is appalling. There's a bit where they talk to somebody by having the dinosaur fart on his face. That's high comedy for you. The effects, apparently people who signed up for the film thought there was going to be CGI dinosaurs, and it's not. It's a bloke in a suit with an animatronic head on. The effects are so bad that a 5-year-old would have rolled their eyes and laughed at them. I mean, even for 1995, they're ropey. But the production design is terrible. I mean, apparently it cost 35 million, but Christ knows where the money went apart from the Whoopi Goldberg.
Embezzlement. Matt, let's face it.
Well,
you must know, if you're associated with something which you know is going to be an absolute shitter, the first temptation you must have is to take it for absolutely everything it's got, in case you never get work again.
Well, funnily enough, Ed, the guy that wrote and directed it, his name is Jonathan Betchwell. He never worked again.
There you go. You see, so yeah, he's probably sat with an unreasonable sum of money.
There was a guy called Stefano Ferrari who was the executive producer. His family own a pharmaceutical company and are worth billions, and he used 15 million of his family's money to finance what was his first, big budget film production. All he got for his pains was lost all his money, and then he got 5 different lawsuits after the film had actually come out. New Line, who were aiming for it to be a big release around the time that Whoopi Goldberg was presenting the Oscars in 1996, tested it with test audiences and realised they had a turkey on their hands, a dino turkey of unprecedented proportions.
But they didn't know that before.
Well, you thought they didn't need to test this with an audience and find out it was shit. And then, and obviously it went straight to video. So at one point, it was the most expensive direct-to-video film of all time. Also, the only direct-to-video film ever to be nominated for a Razzie, for a Golden Raspberry, for Whoopi Goldberg's performance. She got 3 nominations that year, so she really should fire her agent, frankly. It's appalling. And I was making my girlfriend watch it with me, and eventually she said, "I'm sorry, I really, really can't do this any longer," and got up and walked out of the room. I sat through all 92 minutes of it. It was excruciating from beginning to end.
And not only did you do that, and you've reviewed it on the podcast, you've also written a review that's going to be on the website.
I've written a review, which will be up by the time this podcast goes up. I think this is the kind of pain that we should share. So some lucky or unlucky individual having a look at it can win it in a competition. and I'll sign it too. A signed copy of Theodore Rex. There you go.
You're going to sign it as Whoopi Goldberg.
Just sad face, Steve Withers.
Oh God, it was bad. It was so bad. In what universe did anyone ever think this was going to be good? I would love to have been in the pitch meeting for this.
Yeah, but
there's not enough cocaine in Hollywood to make this.
The same way that I'd have loved to be in the pitch meeting for the bloke that proposed Ratatouille, and then everyone went, "Yeah, all right then, go on." And obviously it's a good film, but nonetheless, it's like, yeah, it's a rat that really likes cooking. Okay. So the last one you did, The Incredibles, they were like superheroes and stuff. Yeah, we don't want to do any of that. We're going to set it in France, and it's going to be about a rat that likes cooking.
Yeah, but you know what happened in that meeting, Ed? It was basically, who's making this? Pixar. Oh yeah, they can do whatever they like.
Yeah. I still think that at least one person would have stuck their hand up and gone, really?
Pixar are a very talented company. The people that made Theodore Rex.
Oh, no.
I mean,
There's a chance for a remake there.
The direction's inept. The writing is appalling. The acting is atrocious. The production design is cheap.
Give us a feel for some of the dialogue.
There's a bit where, the bit where she's told she's going to partner up with Teddy, and she says he's a dinosaur about 8 times. That's over and over again. It's honestly, it's. So I mean, a lobotomized goldfish could have written better dialogue than there is in this film. It really is bad. It's just shockingly bad. I mean, it's so bad you think
it's so bad it's good.
Well, no,
unfortunately, it's not.
It doesn't even. It's not that. It's not like Showgirl's good. You know.
Oh, let's face it. Elizabeth Berkley's sex scene is still
Rogered more times than a policeman's radio.
It's more a case that, what am I going? Where is my power animal for my sex scene? I know, dolphin. Yeah, that's always a bad one, isn't it?
At least it's not a T-Rex.
I don't think it could have been any worse. Actually, going back to the Jurassic World trailer, should not all of these dinosaurs be covered in feathers now? Isn't that the accepted wisdom?
Yes, but the director turned around and said stuff that. Basically, he's making a film, not a documentary. That's what he said.
Oh, has
Matthews
this honestly
commercial.
come up in conversation then?
Yes, it has been discussed. I read an article somewhere where he basically turned around and said he's making a film, not a documentary.
So, there you go. Theodore Rex, what a masterpiece. I'm going to give it a generous 2 out of 10.
2? What the hell's it getting 2 for?
Well, it's getting 2 because it's quite funny watching Whoopi Goldberg squirm scene after scene after scene.
Sounds like the kind of film you should just queue up Dark Side of the Moon and then drop some acid or something. See if it syncs up.
Yeah, there's got to be a drinking game that you can attach to this, Steve.
I would recommend no one watches this sober. That's for certainly true. I think at the very least a bottle of wine before you even attempt to put it in the disc player.
Meths. Bottle of meth.
Yeah, lighter fluid would be a good start.
Comes with a free gift. Amazon suggestions.
I don't know if you've looked at the Amazon stuff, but it is absolutely hilarious, the reviews on this.
They are. The best one was the one on the Ed fan where the person reviews it as if it is about the life of Teddy Roosevelt. That was the work of pure genius.
On a serious note, what
Really?
was like the character design, was that in any way related to the TV series Dinosaurs? Does anyone remember that one?
I remember that.
It had the bleakest ending of, I think, and I'm not making this up, one of the bleakest, other than Alf, one of the bleakest endings of any television comedy I've ever seen.
Hang on a minute. Am I listening to this podcast from August 2013? I must be.
Yeah, well, we revisited it. But no, in Dinosaurs, they all died horribly in a permafrost event.
Even the little baby one in the high
All
chair.
of them. They all died.
Well, it's a pity that a giant asteroid couldn't hit this bloody film and saved us all from it. Or a bit of
how did they explain that bit?
The dinosaurs are they brought them back a la Jurassic Park, so we can blame Jurassic Park for all this, really, for being about dinosaurs and being successful, presumably.
So how do they get them
talking? But okay, fair enough. So they genetically re-engineer these dinosaurs. What they don't explain is why the they're talking.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say.
Well, obviously, you know that they mixed frog DNA in Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
They mixed, I don't know, Jeremy Kyle's DNA in with these ones. One thing led to another, and
Artificially, or he just...
I couldn't possibly comment. I haven't seen the film.
It's in the deleted scenes.
Would you like to?
While Ed chokes to death, there's the thing that you didn't mention in your review, Steve, was what extras are there on the disc?
There aren't any extras on the disc. Well, unless you count the theatrical trailer,
Which we have already seen, to be fair. That was on YouTube.
for some strange reason, and I can't work out why. No one involved with the film wanted to be involved in a documentary. So Anyone will think they weren't proud of their work.
Can you
Names
imagine?
have been changed to protect the innocent.
Or the very guilty, more like.
Does he just speak English, or does he speak other languages as
English.
Teddy?
He speaks English.
Right.
And does impressions too. And he wears three-toed Converse All-Stars.
Wow.
And I'm not making this up. And there's a space in the back of his car for his tail. And he has a little cute dog, a real dog, that does tricks. And there's a point where Whoopi Goldberg has to sort of bend down to pick the dog up, and she can't move in the outfit. So she has to sort of slowly move herself down upright and bend her knees in order to get to the dog. It's brilliant. It's so funny. You can't. She has to get into it. Their police car is a garbage, because their actual squad car gets destroyed. So they get given a replacement, and it's a garbage truck. And she can barely get in it at one point. She just looks annoyed the whole time.
Can you rip me the DVD before you actually send it on?
That would be piracy, but at this point, I don't think anyone gives a shit.
Yeah.
No one who made the film is going to own up
Yeah.
to come forward.
I mean, it does spring to mind. Which actor, if you could subject them to a Theodore Rex level of humiliation by compelling them to act in a film, who would you do it and to what?
I would definitely want to make Russell Crowe do a film. What would be a good thing to make him do?
The Crankies, the biopic.
Yeah. Russell Crowe as Jeanette Cranky. Fun-dubby dozy.
As I say, I mean, having heard your review of this, Steve, it does sound like basically this was done purely to humiliate Whoopi Goldberg. There was never any intention.
Spite. There's no other explanation for
There's
it.
no intention of making any money at any stage.
The writer-director, who hasn't worked since, he was moaning. They said, "Well, I thought that New Line didn't handle the marketing very well." Yeah, that was the least of that film's problems, mate. Short of paying people to go and see it, there was no way you're going to market this film.
Yeah, maybe for our Christmas podcast, we can just all watch it in sequence.
We just do a running commentary.
Running commentary. I mean, Phil, you'll have to try salvia. I mean, I know you don't drink or something. You'll have to try something different. Legal highs of some description.
I've just noticed he was director of photography on this film. I thought, talk about bad luck. So you get to do this film, Theodore Rex, and then what have you got to look for? You think, well, nothing can be much worse than this. And what have you got to look forward to? The Phantom Menace, because David Tattersall, who was DP on the prequels, just when he thought things couldn't get any worse.
I don't know. For him, actually, the prequels must have been a step up. He must have been the only person on the Phantom Menace set going, do you know what, guys? This is actually better than where I've been.
Yeah. You can't believe what I was doing last year.
Yeah, you'd never believe me.
I don't think we're going to give away much away here, but does it end good?
One
of them must get shot, or...
actually, funny enough, Whoopi Goldberg's character kind of gets sidelined towards the end, and the T-Rex does all the saves the day. And I'm not sure whether that was actually where it was originally written, whether she just said, I've had enough of this. So he saves the day, and then there's a sort of an award ceremony at the end where they give the T-Rex his own police badge. I'm not making this up. And I know that apparently people were leaving the film, not cast members so much, but certainly production crew were just leaving in droves throughout the course of the film. And Whoopi Goldberg said that 99% of the people that were there on day one of the shoot were no longer there on the last day of the shoot.
How did they get over the small arms on the T-Rex?
Oh, they got bigger arms on the T-Rex. It's not really an anatomically correct T-Rex here, okay?
So if the bad guy stood still...
No. Jurassic Park, whatever, proved that to be a fallacy. His movement is not vision related, movement related even. He can see you no matter what, and then wear an adorable hat and have a nice dog.
Right, so this competition is going to be live by the time this podcast goes out. Closing date is what, Steve?
15th of December.
Okay, and we will announce who the winner was.
And that's the winner in inverted commas.
Mm-hmm. We shall announce the winner in the Christmas podcast, which I believe will go out on the 19th of December.
So we'll be reading their obituary.
Can we just say there's no there has to be a waiver that there will be no you can't just destroy it. If you
have to watch it.
win this, you have to watch it and you have to preserve it for posterity,
I
just
think-
in
I
case
think
this is
that's
the
a-
only
I
surviving
think that's
copy.
a criminal offence to force people to do things, Ed.
It's cruel and unusual punishment. But obviously, we'll get it to you before Christmas, so it will be the worst Christmas present of all time.
Right, we'll be done.
Oh, hang on. I've got to find a shitty Phantom Menace quote to end this, haven't I? Hang on.
Pick a Jar Jar one.
No, I'm sorry. I'm not going down for inciting racial hatred.
So while we get their quotes to finish, in all seriousness, we do have a serious competition running at the moment, and it closes on the 15th of December. We mentioned it on last week's podcast, the Universal Monsters Blu-ray box set. It's well worth winning. In fact, after we discussed this last week, Steve, I actually went away and had another quick look through the set and look at a couple of the movies. I didn't sit and watch them. Didn't have time for that, but it piqued my interest again to go and have another look at them, because I think it's been over a year since I last saw them. And yeah, I mean, Dracula looks pristine for what, 1931.
Yeah, absolutely right, Phil. The restorations on these movies are superb. I mean, it's a great set. If you're a fan of the sort of the classic Universal monster movies from the early 30s and into the 40s, this set is the one for you. It's got all the really great movies in there, and the restorations are fantastic. The extras are also extremely interesting. Some really good stuff in there, like, for example, the Spanish version of Dracula, which they shot at the same time, so on the same sets, the same script, but in Spanish. They shot the English language one during the day, and then at night time they shot the Spanish version with a different cast entirely. And that's in of itself is an interesting sort of curio, I think, and apparently happened a lot back then.
The thing that really stood out for me with Dracula, I mean, obviously we're in the very early days of sound recording as well, and the sound recording it's not good, it's not professional as you would like a 1940s onwards movie in terms of production values. But the fact that there were only 31, so they'd have been about 5 years into
Not even
talkies.
that. I think when was Jazz Singer?
Jazz Singer was 26, was it not? 27. But anyway, they were only a few years into soundy, talkies with sound, and it for its time as well, it's quite an effects laden movie as well for its time. And how they did that and edited the sound and stuff, it still amazes me how quickly things moved on with that. So anyway, that's to win. 15th of December that closes, so get yourself in there. It is, if you are a film fan in any way, whether you like horror or not, you just want to catch some fantastic cinema from the early days of the genre, then go for that one. Right, I think we're ready to finish now. So my thanks to Steve Withers.
With all due respect, the ambassadors of the Supreme Chancellor wish to board immediately.
Mark Botwright. Mark?
Yes, of course. As you know, our blockade is perfectly legal, and we'd be happy to receive ambassadors. Just filling in for
Mark?
So,
We've killed Botwright.
Weezer got a grand army. That's why you're not liking us, Meezer thinks. I had forgotten how shit this film was.
Mark Botwright.
Sorry, are we doing the quotes now? I just got back from having a pee.
I've done a few in your absence.
I just had a very big thing of Coke, so yeah. Sorry, are we doing quotes here?
Yes. Quotes.
Your turn.
Right. Oh, gooberfish.
Waited for that.
Perhaps excessively.
And Head Selly.
Midi-chlorians are a microscopic life form that resides within all living
shut up.
cells,
Right.
thereby shitting on all of your childhood memories from an enormous height.
Don't forget you can follow. All right. Don't forget you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Bookmark AVForums.com for latest reviews, news, and video. Plus, why not leave us a rating on iTunes if you enjoyed the show? I'm Phillington. Thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you again next Wednesday.